Hello, it's March 10th, 2022. March 10th, also known as Mario Day. So happy Mario Day, everyone. Uh, and welcome to the Backdrop weekly developer meeting. It's because March 10th, anyway, it spells out
Darn.
Mario. uh, anyway, yeah, welcome to the weekly Backdrop developer call. We talk about priorities and development tasks for Backdrop Core and beyond every week. So we have a couple of items to talk about today that have been brought up, but before we get into that, we'll quickly do some introductions for those people that are present. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet. I'm a core committer for Backdrop, and I'm coming from Oakland, California. Next up, we'll go to Robert, and then we'll go to Jen.
I'm Robert Wine, bug builder on the internet, coming from Altadena, California, working on various odds and ends, including Civi Sierra.
Great, thanks, Robert. Jen, and then Joseph.
I'm Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California. Very excited about a new backdrop project I'm working on, and I'm really having fun tinkering on the forum site today.
Thanks, Jen. Joseph, and then finally Tim.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada. And yeah, Tim.
Hey, I'm Tim, Tim Erickson, St. Paul, Tim, and Deerwood, Minnesota. And yeah, really focused on our open source. We should mention the open force thing too during the meeting. Nate, sorry, I didn't mention that before.
Okay.
So people know what's going on. And then, so I've been busy with that and Backdrop Live. That's it.
All right. Great. Thanks and welcome, everyone. um, let's see. Before we get into core, we like to touch on contributed projects and the new modules or projects that have been coming out in the world of Contrib. Jen, do you have the list today?
Yep, there's 3 new projects that came out this week: text summary options, rules throttle, and PHP word wrapper. Thanks to our contributors.
PHP word wrapper. Interesting. All right. Great. All right. So every week we have a forum post from forum.backdropcms.org that solicits topics for discussion during this meeting. We had a couple of items, one of which was already discussed during the previous meeting, issue 5003. Add a link to each project page on the modules listing page. So we won't recap that one. But next up, let's see. Let's go to this really simple issue 336, splitting of the administer comments permission into administer comments and administer comments settings. So this issue 336 is an old one. First of all, it's been open since 2014, and I think that we kind of got stuck on this one years ago because we hadn't yet figured out a pattern for, or kind of like drawn a line for what backwards compatibility really means when it comes to permissions. But since then, we have a couple of other examples where we've taken one permission and split it into two or reorganized permissions in certain ways. And that includes in issue 313, we came up with a new assign user roles permission. And then in issue 382, we added a bunch of new permissions for taxonomies, both of which we're taking one permission and splitting into new permissions. So with that precedent having been set, this issue doesn't really have any blockers anymore. I posted a comment on it just before the meeting, and I don't think it's really needs anything more than that. I think that we were just trying to figure out, like, why is this stuck? And I think that the reason it was stuck in the past doesn't apply anymore, or at least now we know how to handle this situation.
Excellent. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, let's see. This is also exciting. Something that was brought up in the forum post is that we have a new feature request like polling system or voting system that is also on the forum. This is kind of the successor to survey.backdropcms.org, which was a survey system that was put together a couple of years ago to help community members vote on what was most important to them to help prioritize our development efforts. So now this lives under forum.backdropcms.org/feature requests, feature-requests. And there's a new system on there, which I'm only just seeing for the first time today, but Tim or Jen, I'd love to hear more about this feature request listing and kind of what your plans and hopes are for it.
Tim talked about it in the last meeting, so I'll go ahead and talk about it in this meeting. Essentially what it does is it pulls over all issues from our GitHub queue that are tagged with the feature request label and makes them available on the forum site, which we're hoping there will be more people on the forum site than in the issue queue. And it allows those people to specify their preferences for what we should be working on in core. So even if you're not in the core issue queue, you get an opportunity to vote on which features are most important to you. There's no guarantee that the number one issues on this list are going to be highest on our priorities, but most core developers are rather sensitive to what it is people want, and having an idea of what people want is very helpful in allowing us to choose which issues we want to put into core. So we are asking that people vote for no more than 10 issues. And you should be able to visit the list of all of the issues and also your issues that you voted for on your user profile page. Here's going to do a screen share real quick. But this, if there's something you're particularly passionate about, you can search through here by issue title. You can also, if you are following an issue on GitHub and you want to find that issue here to vote on it, you can search by issue number. So hopefully this will give us a better way for non-issue queue users to be involved with what's coming up in future versions of Backdrop.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, actually. So this is, it's every feature request ever. This isn't manually created anymore. Now it's all just like literally everything.
Yep.
Cool. Huh. So that it's sorted by popularity, which in a way will
keep it sorted by the same issues.
Yeah, will likely reinforce the top ones will end up becoming even more top, probably. But I could see certain like campaigns for certain issues to like get them bumped up to the top being effective as well. Yeah, neat. Huh, lots and lots of issues here.
Yeah, it's a little bit by design. I think, somebody new to this survey isn't going to be familiar with the issues, and sort of filtering them by the ones that other people have identified as helpful, I hope. We haven't decided, the previous survey was time limited, and we haven't quite decided how we want to handle that, but we'll maybe talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. How do these new items get created in the first place? Like, what's the mechanism? Is it like
there's a feeds import module that pulls in from the RSS JSON feed of data from GitHub. So it checks every hour for the 100 items that have most recently been updated that are tagged with feature request.
Mm-hmm.
So even old issues, like if they get updated, they should get pulled in again.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Huh, very cool. Yeah, already some of the classic ones have already come up to the top. I'm still surprised field group functionality is so hotly requested, but there it is once again. So it's as the number one feature request so far.
It is nice to note, though, that if you look at the survey from the last time we did this, there are several of the top 10 issues that are now in Backdrop core. So
yeah,
good job, team.
Yeah, we definitely made a lot of progress from like prioritizing those items from the from the survey a couple of years ago and actually getting those items to completion. Yeah, excellent. Okay, let's see. We'll continue talking about a couple of issues here before we talk about events. Let's see, so I'm going to jump down to a feature that's currently in progress for the next bug fix release is issue 5499, the title of which is Enabling Backdrop-Only Required Modules, such as Entity Plus, during upgrades from Drupal 7. So I am not the best person to talk about this issue. Robert or Joseph have both had a look at this. Could you give us a summary of what this issue is doing?
Yeah. So it's a general, it addresses a general problem where a backdrop module that is a port of a Drupal module requires as a dependency other backdrop modules that didn't exist in Drupal. And if you run a Drupal upgrade without doing anything special, then because the predecessor modules didn't exist, backdrop modules will be automatically disabled in the upgrade process, and all of their dependencies or subsequent modules that depend on them are disabled. And so upgrades don't run for all those modules. And so people end up with a site that is only partially upgraded and has lots of things disabled that used to be enabled in Drupal. So that's bad. The workaround that people have been using, and examples of this are anything that depended on Drupal entity module that now requires the functionality that exists in the Entity Plus module on Backdrop, which has no Drupal equivalent. It's functionality that used to be in Drupal entity and is still needed by some modules. Notably, rules and things that depend on rules, like UberCart. UberCart has an additional issue in that the Backdrop version of UberCart has a master module called UberCart that all of its submodules depended on, and Drupal only had the submodules. So ironically, the UberCart module itself didn't exist in Drupal. Now, the workaround that's documented, people have been using, it's documented in various wiki pages, is to, before you do the upgrade, you create Drupal stub modules, which basically are empty modules that don't do anything, but you can enable them in Drupal before you start running the upgrade. And then when the upgrade runs, Backdrop sees, oh, all those modules existed, they were enabled, we'll continue enabling running the upgrade and everything works. But you have to know to do that. And so what this PR does, need to say, the heavy lifting on making this PR work is Alejandro, RGPiano, so attaboys to him, is when you're running an upgrade, only if it's an upgrade from Drupal, it looks to see if backdrop modules that are required by enabled backdrop modules exist in the code base, and if they are, it enables them before running the whole sequence of updates, hook update ends. And so those modules, so it's kind of the equivalent of having the Drupal stub modules, except it's actually enabling the backdrop modules ahead of time. And then once again, the upgrades all just run. And to kind of help keep the scope of this limited, this special pre-enabling of modules only happens during an upgrade from D7. So if you are doing a later upgrade of a backdrop site, it doesn't try to do anything different from what the behavior has been all along. You're muted.
Yeah, and it looks like it's all just automatic. Like it just looks at the list of modules that need to be upgraded, checks if they have any new dependencies on modules that aren't enabled, and then turns on those dependencies.
And it reports on the opening screen of the upgrade process what modules are being enabled, so that the user knows that this is going on.
That could
Yep.
be really valuable for existing contrib projects too. If you're running a backdrop site and you upgrade to a new version of the module that has a new dependency, could come in handy there too. So
Yeah, I don't, but it won't, from what Robert just said, it will only run on 777, like on full site upgrades, like coming from 777. It doesn't run all the time, does it?
Right, it's just 777 upgrades.
Yeah, interesting. I
Well.
wonder if it should run all the time. Maybe that's another.
Yeah, that's
thing
a
to
separate
consider.
issue maybe. But
Although,
yeah, potential.
Yeah, interesting. There might be other options for modules that introduce new dependencies, though. Like if they're already on, I don't think they turn themselves off. They probably have the opportunity to run an update hook already. Well, anyway, very interesting. Yeah, very useful for people coming from 777, and that still continues to be a big priority for us. So this could be a big help in the upgrade process coming from 777. Yeah, very cool. And I thought that this was for a bug fix thing, but it actually looks like this is currently tagged for like a new minor candidate, minor release.
Yeah, I think I put it was seemed like a feature and therefore a minor release.
Yeah, it's like an improvement to the upgrade process. I think that that's probably right, since we've never really designed the upgrade process to handle this situation. Yeah, I think that that's fair. Okay, let's see. Also, then in the realm of things that may be in Backdrop 122, the next feature release that'll be coming out in May, we have the hidden path content type, the card content type, including that out of the box in issue 4903. Tim, you're the advocate for this one, and it seems like it's made some progress recently. Do you have an update?
Yeah, I think it seems like we have time. I could open it up. It is, we need feedback, basically. So we were scrambling to get this into the last release, and then there were a number of changes. And I mean, I think we need feedback, one, on just the look in the text. Olaf revised the text that we're using in the sample content fairly recently, and we haven't had any feedback on that yet, unless some came in today, which is possible. And then also just sort of the images, if we're consensus on those. And then there's enough going on behind the scenes. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I had a question like, Nate, in the past, I have done some changes to the install profile, and you looked at it and said, oh, this should probably be better done in core. Like I was changing the template or something at the point of the install process, and it made sense that we were able to go in and like change those files in core. And like in this one, we've introduced a new image style. And one, I'd like feedback on that. There's reasons for that. But two, I just did it through config files in the install profile. And I'm not sure if that's the right way to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I might need to look into that.
Okay.
So there's literally config files, like a config directory that comes in the install profile, and you just put them in there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that we intentionally made that possible at one point, that we didn't
Yeah.
used to support config files being loaded from the install profiles, but now that's a very intentional, like, this is a supported way to do things. So I don't think that there's any, unless there's a need to uh, manually do something in the PHP of the dot profile file. I think putting it in config files is desirable, actually.
Okay.
I think.
Well, that's good
I might
feedback.
take a look at it.
Take a look. Also, anybody that wants to look at sort of like how we set up the view and to look at, for example, that you know, the choice to add a. I mean, I think there was a little bit of this was discussed a little bit in the issue queue. Should we add a if we upload the image in exactly the right size, right, it's going to display fine without a new image style. But the problem was that Olaf identified was users are probably going to say, "Oh, well, I don't want the sample content." They're going to plug their own images in, and if they plug their own images in, they don't look good because they weren't sized exactly right, and we weren't in, and none of the existing uh, image formats fit quite right for there. So we went ahead and created a new an image style that crops and formats their image specifically to this size. And I don't know if that's if people somebody suggested that might be overkill, that that's not our responsibility, that the end user should have to deal with that. I feel like if we're going to provide this, we need to make it easy to use. You know, so I would need feedback on that. And then finally, there's a bunch of test failures on things like, and I don't know if you were here, Nate, when I talked about this last. The harder ones I think have to do with like files, for me at least, is that I think that Backdrop is expecting when the tests run, it's expecting that there aren't any files. So when it does tests, it's looking for test files to be like the only files there. And this pull request uploads some files.
Right.
And so now all of these file tests are breaking, and I could use some help fixing those. That's it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that all sounds really good. And I mean, for what it's worth, I agree that I think, that this shouldn't break as soon as as soon as a person tries to use it. Like, the card, if we're going to be shipping a content type, it should work out of the box, like for use. It's not just to get us a pretty homepage. It's actually intended to be like, hey, if you use cards, this would be a good way to go about them, rather than just being something that like looks nice on install and you immediately delete, even if you need cards. Which, I mean, there'll be a lot of people that do that as well. And kind of the more opinionated we make the out of the box installer, probably the more likely it is that there'll be stuff that people don't want, But I think that that's kind of a trade-off there. There is still the there is still the minimal install profile. It's just that we don't show that step during the installation process. But if you visit install.php and specify in the query string profile equals minimal, then you will in fact still install the minimal profile that doesn't include any content types, or it would also of course skip this new content type that we're adding to the standard profile. Yeah, that's also another thing that, like, really our tests should try to use the minimal or testing profile as much as possible. So it's also an option for going back through and cleaning up some of those tests possibly. Okay, let's see. All right, that's kind of all that we've got for today as far as individual issues. There are a couple of events that have been have happened and that are going to be happening starting as soon as tomorrow. So Tim, I'd love it if I don't know anything about this Open Force. I'd love it if you could tell us about what that is, and then of course Backdrop Live. Oh, you're muted, Tim. Okay,
Yeah, I'm aware. Trying to get to the mute button. So Jen and I and Greg have participated in this open source day with Grace Hopper Festival or whatever a couple of times. And one of the mentors there, and that was also a big event designed to get young women in particular involved in open source. And one of the mentors at one of those events has been following us on Twitter and contacted me a couple weeks ago and asked if we would be interested in being an open source project in a big hackathon. The organization running it is based in India, and most of the participants are as well, but it's open to anyone. And it's targeted, it's called Open Force 2022, and it's targeted at young students to get them involved in open source projects. And I've had a meeting sort of with one of the key organizers, and we are officially listed as a project. This, unlike other events that we participated that were one-day events, this one goes on for like 3 weeks. The participants, I believe, that it's a little bit of a contest to it. Like they get T-shirts and other prizes if they get committed. They have quite a few participants, and anyways, I did a blog post with sort of an introduction how to get into our issue queue, and we've had like 10, probably, well, at least 10 issues that people have commented on from the open source participants have jumped in to say, can I work on this issue? And we keep politely telling them, yes, that's the purpose. You can work on it. I think some of them are a little bit surprised when the issue is 2 or 3 years old. They think, oh, well, if it's that old, it's probably not good anymore. So I'm trying to explain to them that that's not really an issue here. So anyway, so we've had 2 committed pull requests so far, and we have, I think, 1 out there that needs some review. Well, I haven't checked today, so there could have been action overnight. At least 1 that I think needs some review or feedback. And a number of people who've just said, hey, I want to work on this issue. And I would really appreciate help sort of promptly. The quicker we respond to and move these issues along, the more likely these folks are to do more than 1, and or potentially some of them might enjoy this and stick around after the event. And I think ultimately that's our goal. Is, well, one goal is to help expose these folks to open source regardless, but also ideally to maybe make some friends that will stick around and help us. So hopefully we can be friendly to them and make them enjoy their experience writing a pull request, and maybe they'll come back and help us. So.
Yeah, this is great, Tim. Yeah, very exciting. And I love that it goes the entire month. So it
Yeah.
goes all the way from March 3rd until March 28th. So happening now and continuing to happen for the next couple of weeks.
And I've invited the participants to come to Backdrop Live. I know at least 1 registered. And I think, and I've put, some of them are struggling a little bit, I think, with getting a dev environment set up, which is not new. And that spawned, my queries about that provoked Robert, and we should acknowledge this, to start working on some better documentation just about getting a dev environment set up, improving our documentation. So he's created an issue and already has a page with some new fresh content, and several people have volunteered to help with that. But unlike the single day hackathons where we're there to sort of help them, we didn't have that opportunity here. So I've scheduled at least 1 session during Backdrop Live, which will be just getting set up to do contribute. And it's at midnight our time, which will be about noon in India. And I'm hoping that we can get some of them, I'm gonna, basically they're using Discord for their chat channel, and I'm gonna just post a link directly to that in Discord and tell them that they can just join that session. But it's also open to anyone in Backdrop Live as well. I've encouraged some of them to come to Zulip, and some of them did. One of them, I think, introduced themselves the first day, but they haven't been using Zulip to ask questions. I think it's too convenient for them to use their own Discord channel, and I've been going there and checking in at least once a day.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tim. That's very helpful. Yeah, and I'm very, I love these initiatives to get more people in. And the more responsive we are, I think there's also some chance that you know, as individuals, they're probably, you know, communicating amongst themselves like, hey, I got this thing into this particular project, and you know, people applaud, and you know, and I think that by being responsive to one person, that person may then encourage other people saying, oh, I wasn't able to get anything going. And they might come back and say, oh, well, I got in my work on into Backdrop, and there are lots of people there that were helping me. And that I think that that could kind of cause a snowball effect of getting a rush of new contributors. Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Tim. That's very good. Very great.
Is this, how long is this going on? Like, is this a short event or is it sort of a longer term thing?
Through the end of March, like the
Okay.
27th or something. I think you just looked, Nate, didn't you? What, do you remember the date?
Yeah, through the end of the, well, yeah, actually not quite through the end of the month, through the 28th, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that some other projects, they have like a more curated list of issues. Like they specifically made a Google Doc, and this like these
Mhm.
8 issues or something like that. And ours is just the, is it the whole list, or is it?
We've given them a link to the good first issues tag.
Oh, excellent.
So-
Yeah, that's
And
great.
I have also been identifying specific issues and dropping them into Discord and saying, hey, if anybody wants to work on this one, it looks like a good one. You know, I've been looking for things that are just text changes, really simple things for a first PR. Some of them might want to move beyond that, but
Yeah, great. Yeah, this is just excellent. I love that there's only so it's openforce.tech is the URL, and there's only, what is this? 8, 12, 16 participating projects. And so yeah, this is great. Like there, a lot of them are like well known projects like Angular, you know, Spring, Joomla, and there's only like, yeah, with such a small number of projects, like it's likely that we'll get a fair number of contributors. So that's just really great. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for finding that opportunity. All right, and only one more thing on the agenda for today, and that's Backdrop Live. Backdrop Live is our 3 times a year um, conference, online global conference that starts tomorrow. I think, let me look at the schedule here. So for those of us on the West Coast of North America, it starts tomorrow at 8 a.m. But you can find the starting time at events.backdropcms.org/schedule. Tim, anything you'd like to say about Backdrop Live? Still looking for sessions? Is that still a possibility, or are they locked in at this point?
I wouldn't say that. We let's take a quick look at the site. We did it in the last meeting too. We'll do it again. We have 66 registrations, which probably more than we've ever had the day before an event. I think we'll get a handful tomorrow, and 70 would be our record for any previous event. The schedule is, we've got more topics than we've ever had before. We've never had more than 2 columns or 2 rooms at a time in the past. And oftentimes we were filling those up the day of the event. For this one, we have, are you sharing your screen, Nate?
Yeah, I'm already sharing my screen. Yep, and I'm seeing.
I thought I was showing mine and yours was going out of sync with mine. And I'm like, what's going on? Okay. Yeah, so we've got 2. We've actually opened up a 3rd row in some of the blocks. We're the first day, our current sessions are all open, are all full for block A and B. There's a few slots in C, and then on Saturday there's also some slots available. We may make some other opportunities if there's demand for it, you know, on the fly tomorrow. We talked a little bit about that in the last meeting. But we certainly will have an open room, a fourth, just sort of a quiet room or a spot, you know, a breakout room that is just available for anybody to go into. And if we decide to, we could actually schedule things in that if we need to. So, but we've got a pretty good mix of topics. It's not too late for people to add them. I think that we're more likely, especially on Saturday, that the more good topics we have on Saturday, the more likely people will stick around or come back. So
Yep.
I
Yeah,
think
definitely looks like Friday is our uh, is our real big
yeah,
session rush. Yeah, look at this though. This is fantastic. Yeah, three excellent sessions, all side by side, and the feature for uh, indicating if you're interested. Uh, this actually took me a minute to find. It's like this little button down here at the bottom of each session. If you're interested in attending, then that flags you as being interested. I think that also this is moderately helpful to let people know, um, generally how many people are going to be attending their event. Although really, I'm not sure if everybody is using this
no.
functionality. Probably less than half, but still pretty good indicator of like where people are going to be. Yeah, very exciting. Starting tomorrow.
Although that is a reminder that we don't officially have anybody scheduled to do the introduction to backdrop presentation. Uh, is there somebody that would like to do that? Or is there anybody that volunteered and I forgot?
Is this the welcome session or the introduction
No, this is
session?
the introduction to backdrop.
Okay.
We we haven't talked at all about the welcome session. I think we're just built. I don't know. Were you preparing for the welcome session today, Nate, or do you plan to?
I was hoping to clarify that with you today about
Okay.
what the welcome session was going to look like.
Well, hopefully, we have a few minutes right after the meeting. We can talk about that. We need to do a little bit more prep for that. But the right after that, we just have an introduction to backdrop, which I think in the past we have used sort of the slide deck for. It could also just be a general questions, Q&A. It doesn't have to be a structured presentation. Generally that's not what we're expecting. It could be just kind of a live demo of backdrop where we answer questions, see where the audience, see what they want to look at, and we just show them what they're interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there a list somewhere of topics that people are interested in that don't have sessions yet?
I have been, as people have been registering, I have been dropping those into the one thread in Zulip. I could
Okay.
compile all those into one list of all the things that people said they wanted to talk about. That would probably be helpful. I will definitely do that before tomorrow. I'll try and do it today. So
We should see if we can make a view on the website that pulls those from the web form submissions.
Sure, that's a really smart idea.
I'll try and see how easy that is.
Is that under event planning?
The Zulip
Yes.
chat.
No, it's in the main. In Zulip, it's in the main channel. I assume that's what you're asking.
Yes.
Is where I've been posting them. In the main channel, there is I think it's called Backdrop Live Topics or something. I'm looking for it. Backdrop Live Topic Ideas. And there's there's other discussions scattered in there. So as the suggestions have been coming in, they're scattered through this thread.
Okay.
But pretty much
works.
everything that's come in is in that thread. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that does it for the things that we have on the schedule to discuss today. If there's anything else people would like to bring up before we close. Okay. All right. Well, we'll close for today then. Thank you all for participating and for being here. And I think we'll see most of you tomorrow at Backdrop Live. So thank you. And yeah, we'll see you soon.